Hey guys, it is November 11th, 2017, and this is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine, continuing the November video marathon, where I'm trying to put out as much good information as I can and just pile it up, almost making a case to the public and, just going through information that will be helpful for other TIs to explain this to the public at large. I want to read, before I get into the articles that I'm going to read. I'm going to read two articles today, kind of connecting some dots about the Cuban embassy attack, and then there was microwave attacks in Moscow, at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow in, I think, 1970-something, but I'll read the article to give you the specific date. Before I get into it and try and connect some dots here, I do want to read this this little fortune cookie thing that I got a long time ago, and I just found it on my kitchen counter this morning, and it really kind of inspired me. It says, "Commitment is the stuff of character." Wait, commitment is the stuff character is made of, the power to change the face of things. And I felt like it was very fitting because I'm very committed, to ending these horrible crimes, getting the public aware, and I like the end. Commitment is the stuff of character. The stuff character is made of, the power to change the face of things, and that's what TIs we're trying to do. Because the face of things is an illusion, a lie. The public is being fed lies. These experiments and crimes, and human trafficking. They're being covered up for a bigger agenda and for money and for greed, and horrible things that we can't even imagine. So we need to change the face of things. We need to keep speaking out about this. So I'm going to jump right into it, guys. I found this article, and it was uploaded on October 14th, 2017. So it's a pretty current. It's like one of the most current articles I can find about the Cuban embassy attack. It's not, the story's not fizzling out, but I think they're still doing the investigation. And articles, there's tons of articles up to the end of October. Not so many this month, but let's keep it in the news. Let's keep it on social media. It says new audio adds to mystery of attacks on U.S. diplomats. And I want to show this little video because it's really, really good. And it really kind of demonstrates the high-pitched sound that a lot of targeted individuals hear, that the State Department workers in the Cuban embassy heard when they were being attacked by this sonic weapon, what I call directed energy weapon systems. The following is an audible portion of what U.S. officials say the Cuban State Department workers. They say the tone. Okay, I can't follow it. Hold on, I'm going to have to start it over, guys. The show must go on. Here we go. The following is the audible portion of what U.S. officials say is an acoustic attack. They say the tone caused serious health issues for U.S. diplomats in Cuba. AP obtained a recording of the sound that some U.S. diplomats claim to have heard. Dr. Robert Jackler, an ear disease expert, notes that what you're hearing... Let me go back again. They do it really fast. Okay, so AP... Okay, I'm not going to read that one. Dr. Robert Jackler, an ear disease expert, notes that what you're hearing isn't dangerous. Other experts speculate that inaudible frequencies are what could have... Wow, it just goes really, really fast. So that's the high pitch tonight. Other experts speculate that inaudible frequencies are what could have caused harm. Those frequencies wouldn't be picked up in this recording. Officials are still trying to figure out how the sonic attacks were carried out. Dr. Jackler says one theory is based on the idea of negative reactions to
U.S. officials tell
infrasound.
CNN they believe a sophisticated device operating outside the range of human hearing could have been placed inside or outside the diplomats' homes.
Low-frequency infrasound is present in HVAC systems, cars, and even intense or prolonged exposure to infrasound can cause physical side effects. The diplomats were diagnosed with a range of issues, including mild traumatic brain injury.
Like Cuba, where the government is going to know a lot of things that take place within its borders. They may have more information than we are aware of.
We believe that the Cuban government could stop the attacks on our diplomats.
The Cuban government has denied any involvement in the alleged attacks. Alright, I'm going to kind of, I might play that video at the end, because it went kind of fast, what they were talking about it. But a sonic attack was that sound that you can hear, that is audible and you can pick up on a recording. Now, what the Cuban embassy, what the State Department workers were complaining of, could not be picked up on a recording, and that is the problem that targeted individuals have. We're hearing that high-pitched sound too and getting concussive effects from what's going on from directed energy weapon systems and infrasound. Some of it is infrasound, but it's also electromagnetic frequencies that you just can't pick up with with a recording. So them stating this, that a lot of the stuff that the State Department workers were hit with, that you cannot audibly pick it up on a recorder, is very, very important, because it's what all TIs all over the world are complaining of. So I'm trying to connect some dots here. I'm going to go ahead and read the article, guys, and I'll try and get it as clear as possible on the camera, but forgive me if I can't. I got to get some better production value here, guys. So Washington. A new audio recording said to capture what was heard by some U.S. embassy workers amid a series of attacks on American diplomats in Cuba is adding another layer of intrigue around the mysterious incidents that sickened at least 22 U.S. diplomats and family members. The recording, obtained by the Associated Press and released on Thursday, is the first publicly reported audio sample said to be related to attacks that, according to a U.S. official, may have involved the use of acoustic device. The device was so sophisticated it was outside the range of audible sound, the official said, and it was so damaging, the source said, that one U.S. diplomat now needs to use a hearing aid. But what remains unknown is what kind of device may have been used, where exactly it was placed, and who put it there. Investigators continue to examine the circumstances surrounding as many as 50 attacks believed to have been carried out against the diplomats, a senior U.S. official has told CNN. And I want to go up to these little bullet points. The story highlights, investigators continue to examine the circumstances surrounding as many as 50 attacks. For months, starting late last year, U.S. diplomats in Havana complained of incidents. So now I want to connect some more dots here. The Cuban embassy attack, and I'm going to go to an article from the Diplo Pundit, and this was, I'm not sure when it was posted. It looks like August 28, 2017. Microwaving U.S. Embassy in Moscow, oral history from FSO's James Schumacher and William A. Brown. So this is concerning the U.S. Embassy in Moscow was attacked with microwaves in the 1970s. And this is an article talking about that and connecting it to the Cuban embassy attacks. Article starts out, we recently blogged about the attacks on American diplomats in Havana. See U.S. diplomats in Cuban attacks, as serious as mild TBI, central nervous system damage, ? 16 USG employees in sonic attack, and more on the secret history of diplomats and invisible weapons. Former FSO James Schumacher, who served in the USSR and later Russia and Ukraine, and was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia in 1985, reminded us of the Moscow microwaves controversy and recently notes that the lesson is that party doesn't matter. Every administration tries to bury bad news when embassy personnel are the only ones affected. Via the Association for Diplomatic Studies and Training, ADST Oral History. U.S. relations with Moscow through the decades have been problematic at best. While the embassy itself has been the subject of spy scandals, eavesdropping, and other Cold War intrigue, one of the strangest episodes was revealed in the 1970s when the U.S. confirmed that the USSR had been beaming microwaves at the embassy for the past 15 years. One concern was that the Soviets were trying to inflict physical harm on the Americans working there. This is a picture of the old U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Microwaving Embassy Moscow. Let's see. Let's go down here. Microwaving Embassy Moscow brought back a flood of memories to James Schumacher, who served most of his career in the USSR and later Russia and Ukraine. In this account, he describes how U.S. Ambassador to the USSR Walter Stossel threatened to resign. The widespread concern many Americans posted at the embassy had regarding potential health problems, especially when 2 ambassadors died of cancer, and his own experience with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. James Schumacher. The existence of the microwave problem had been kept under wraps for years, first because no one knew that there might be health consequences, and later, according to unconfirmed reports, because Henry Kissinger wanted to avoid damaging chances for detente. When Ambassador Stossel, seen at left, learned about the problem, he threatened to resign unless the embassy community was told. As a result, the microwave story was finally made public in a press conference called The Ambassador. In the wake of Ambassador Stossel's announcement, many in the embassy community felt betrayed about being kept in the dark for so long, and still more were anxious about the effect the microwaves might be having. Some thought that the microwaves were used by the Soviets to activate numerous listening devices they had placed in the building prior to American occupancy. Others believed that they were a jamming signal designed to foil our own electronic snooping devices. A highly classified report that came out in the 1970s leaned to this interpretation, and this is what the Soviets told us as well. I'm really not getting any of these letters in there, and it's kind of blurry, so I'll just read it out, and I'll tell y'all where you can go to find these articles. Others believe that they were a jamming signal designed to foil our own electronic snooping devices. A highly classified report that came out in the 1970s leaned to this interpretation, and this is what the Soviets told us as well. Still others thought that the Soviets, who apparently knew a lot more about microwaves than we did, were using them to affect the mental states of the embassy employees. For the most part, I was blissfully unconcerned about the microwave controversy. At the time, it seemed to me that it was an issue taken more seriously by embassy spouses who were afraid for their children than by the embassy leadership, which in fact was in the crosshairs of whatever the microwaves might be doing. Periodically, I would see Soviet technicians standing side by side with American techs on the upper floors of the Chancery. Oh, it's blurry. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and get through it, and I'll tell y'all where you can find it. They were measuring ambient levels of microwave radiation. Naturally, the Soviet equipment didn't find anything, while ours did. I thought it was funny at the time. Screens were put up on the Chancery windows, which were said to diminish the amount of microwave emanations getting into the embassy. I didn't think much about that either. I just continued to do my work and not think about the possible consequences. Microwaves continued to be beamed at the embassy throughout my tour, and though the levels went up and down over the years, emanating first from 1 and then 2 locations, the microwaving of the embassy continued until at least 1988. Over the years, thousands of Americans were exposed. Shortly after my tour was over, I found out that my cavalier attitude toward the microwave issue was not at all justified, at least in my own personal case. Med informed me in late 1979 that my own white cell count was much higher than normal and advised me to continue testing. In 1985, my white cell count got high enough for MED to recommend, for Med to recommend that I see a hematologist. So I went to a local doctor in San Clemente, Dr. Sang Pifong. He did a bone marrow test, the one where they hammer a spike into the pelvic bone. Very uncomfortable. The test confirmed that I had chronic lymphocytic leukemia, CLL, stage 0, but that chemotherapy was not advisable, since I had no symptoms and the cure could be worse than the disease. I determined to fight the disease as best I could by leading a healthy lifestyle, although paradoxically, I then volunteered for a high-risk assignment to Kabul in 1988. Perhaps in the back of my mind,